Hello class, welcome to video 11, Habit 3, Part 2. You just saw the video called The Time of Your Life, and it illustrated these points. List your goals and set priorities. And they mentioned that you should set your goals according to the ABC system, A's being most important, B's medium importance, and C of low importance. Make a daily to-do list. Now today I think I would do that on my smartphone. That's what I do. I put down things I have to do that day, and it's easy to do that. There are all kinds of apps to help you do that. 3, start with A's, not with C's. Once you've prioritized things, you do the things that are most important first and make sure that you get those done. 4, ask yourself often the question, what's the best use of my time right now? Because you can do things, maybe you only have 10 minutes, but you can do something to move an A along. Handle each piece of paper only once. I would, again, modernize that to say each email only once. Either move it along, answer it, or delete it, and do it now. So we have a tendency to turn things off. I also like that Swiss cheese approach. Punch little holes in your major overwhelming A. For example, I wanted to write my own personal life history, and I thought that's too big of a project because I'm way too old. But then I just started with an outline, and when I'd have 20 minutes here, 10 minutes there, I'd work on it. I have over 300 pages written so far. So you can get a lot more done than you think you can if you use these principles. Okay. Again, here's a series of slides we're going to look at now about putting first thing first. I introduced you to David Cheatham earlier from Performance Management Magazine, where he analyzes 7 habits. And he said, put first things first, but how do we do it? Well, at first he said it's easier said than done, right? So going along with that idea, Nike has the saying, just do it. That sounds good, but it may not be easy. Benjamin Franklin said, never leave that till tomorrow which you can do today. We have a tendency to put things off. Chinese proverb, great people have wills, feeble ones have only wishes. And Stephen Vincent Benet, life is not lost by dying, life is lost minute by minute, day by dragging day, and all the thousand small and uncaring ways. So let me introduce you to a concept called pinpointing. Pinpointing is a very specific description of a behavior or result. And I'm going to tell you more about that and give you what's called the pinpointing template in a moment. For example, I want to be a better manager. Well, what does that mean? Does that mean you want to set more goals? Or you want to set fewer goals, that you're going to make fewer decisions, or you're going to spend more or less time deciding, or more or less time deciding, less decisions, fewer decisions? Who knows what it means? It's too vague to be a better manager. So we need to learn how to use pinpointing. So here's a story I once heard about a man who did not get promoted, and when the boss broke the bad news to him, he says, you didn't get promoted because you're unprofessional. So the guy thought, oh, I'm unprofessional, what should I do? So he spent the next 3 years going to night school to get an MBA degree. Then he went back after 3 years and asked his boss for that promotion. He says, well, I've gone and got an MBA, so now I'm professional. He said, what are you talking about? He said, 3 years ago you said I didn't get promoted because I was unprofessional, so I got an MBA. The boss says, I just meant that you sit in your office, you put your feet on your desk, and that's very unprofessional. Guy wasted 3 years because he didn't understand pinpointing. So, have you ever had somebody say he has a bad attitude? But exactly what does that mean? That's very vague. Does it affect performance? An NFL quarterback said, I don't care if my linemen have a good attitude or not, as long as they block for me. Okay? So what is attitude what we're really talking about? Or is it a specific behavior? Is a person yelling at customers too much? What does that mean? So there's some rules of pinpointing. First is to, what I've already mentioned, avoid vague objectives. And then consider the setting of the behavior when you're describing it. So this is the pinpointing template that does that. My goal is to blank when blank. So we're talking about the context when we say when. So for example, my goal is to do something specific, make a positive comment. When I see Joe arrive on time, because I want him to be more punctual. My goal is to go to my office when someone begins telling a rumor. My goal is to send a thank you note when my boss does something nice. So this is the idea of pinpointing. Okay, now to help us motivate ourselves and get done what's really important, and as we're putting first things first, here's something else to understand. It's called positive, immediate, certain consequences, or PICS for short. Before we get to that, a couple of more quotes. Lou Holtz, the football coach, said, when all is said and done, a lot more is said than is done. We have a tendency to talk and not get things done. So to get more things done, arrange consequences to support what's being said. Consequences are very important. Samuel Johnson said, the chains of habits are too weak to be felt until they're too strong to be broken. Here's an example of that. We end up with habits and we're not sure why we do them. There was a young wife, where every time she'd bake a ham, she'd cut off the ends before baking it. Her husband once asked her why she did that. And she said, well, that's the way my mother taught me to do it. And he said, but why? She said, I'm not really sure. I'll ask my mother. So a few days later, she was at her mother's house and she said, Mom, why do we cut off the ends of a ham before baking it? And the mother said, well, I don't know why you do it, but I do it because I have a small oven, only one size pan, and I have to cut off the ends so it'll fit in my pan into my oven. Just a habit. Okay, let's get to that PIC, positive, immediate, certain consequences. Before we do that, we need to understand what's called the ABC analysis. The antecedent of our behavior, and then the behavior, and then the consequences. I think I may have mentioned this before, but I watch TV, that's the antecedent, and that ends up me wanting to snack, that's my behavior, and consequences is I gain too much weight. So I need to understand what's happening and why. Consequences can be positive or negative. I mentioned the negative consequence, gaining weight, but there are also positive consequences. And consequences can be immediate. I eat my snack and I feel better. That's positive, I guess. Or they can be future. I'll gain weight in the future. That could be negative. And they could be certain or uncertain. I'll gain weight for sure, or I eat the candy and it's going to taste good right now, or uncertain. I may not gain weight. I may exercise a lot tomorrow. Positive or negative, immediate or future, certain or uncertain. So, for example, why do we resist wearing seatbelts? Because it has negative, immediate, certain consequences, or NICS. For example, it wrinkles our clothes, it's uncomfortable, it restricts our movement, so we don't want to wear that seatbelt. Does it have any positive consequences? Well, it could have positive future but uncertain consequences. I could get in an accident, and having worn a seatbelt could save my life. But again, I may never get in an accident. And maybe if I don't have my seatbelt on, it'll throw me clear and I'll be safer. So it's still uncertain. May save your life, may not. So that's why we resist. Why do we eat so many sweets? It has powerful PIC, positive, immediate, certain consequences. We eat the sweet and it tastes good. That's positive, it's immediate, and we know it's going to taste good. Okay? It has weak, negative, future, uncertain consequences. We might eventually gain weight. Why do managers use punishment on employees? Because it has powerful PIC, positive, immediate, certain consequences. The employee stops doing the wrong thing and does what we tell him to do, and immediately. Negative, future, uncertain consequences may follow. The employee may just do enough to get by, or the employee may avoid us, or they may even counterattack us, but we're not sure. So what we need to learn to do is align consequences to provide both short and long-term benefits, or positive consequences. So people live for positive, immediate, certain consequences, but it's hard to get too excited about positive, future, uncertain consequences. So we need to create immediate consequences for doing important things. So in other words, we reinforce ourselves now for something that will benefit us later. I can remember, for example, when I was working on my PhD and I had to write a dissertation. And I did not like writing a dissertation. I hated doing it. I can remember sitting in my little cubbyhole of an office in the basement of the business building at Arizona State. And there were probably 30 other graduate students there. And I heard my friends down near the water cooler discussing their upcoming weekend, going to the game and things like that. And I wanted to go down there and talk with them. But I knew I needed to finish that dissertation because it would benefit me later to have that PhD. Okay? So I had to figure out a way to reinforce myself now for something that would benefit me later. For example, if the only benefit to re-engineering is the company might offer great job security, we're not going to get excited. If the only benefit to giving honest feedback is performance may go up, and we may be viewed as good managers, we're probably not going to give honest feedback. If the only benefit to studying hard is someday we may get a good job, I think I'd rather go to the movies. But if you add a positive, immediate, certain consequence, for example, if I seat the students in my class according to the last test grade, they know that they failed, they're going to have to sit on the front row. That's pretty positive, immediate, certain consequences. You ever thought about frequent flyer miles? You're flying on the plane. They say if you sign up for our frequent flyer program, we'll give you 10,000 extra miles today. Positive, immediate, certain consequences. Or giving Salesforce points for selling activities attached to rewards like a trip to Hawaii. Okay? So it's called Grandma's Law or the Premack principle. Grandma said, no dessert till you eat your vegetables. So you use something you like to do to reinforce something you don't like to do. So when I was sitting there writing that dissertation and wished I could go talk to my buddies, I said, okay, so here's the deal. If I write 2 more pages, I can get up and go see my buddies. That will be my reward for doing something I'm not enjoying doing. And I rewarded myself for doing it. And that got me to do the thing that I didn't enjoy. No TV till your room is clean. That's probably what your parents said. Or you can work on the graphics presentation when you finish the filing. Or after I call one more customer, I'll eat lunch. I use that often. I say, after I finish grading this assignment, I can eat my lunch. Okay? Helps me to get things done. So that's called the Premack principle, which is that we learn to enjoy things we previously disliked doing because we associate them with something positive that's going to happen, and maybe we'll really enjoy it. So the journey continues as we have just finished Habit 3. That's the end of video 11, Habit 3, Part 2. There is a homework assignment associated with this habit, but it's not due till later. And so make sure you view this video, and we'll see you with the next video in the next module.